Hello friends, in our last video we had covered the treatment of certain expenses in the purchase price of a material. Today we are going to look at a few sums to understand the concepts better. Both these questions are from ICI study material. So let us begin with the question. It is given in the question that an invoice in respect of a consignment of chemical A and B provides the following information. The cost of chemical A and chemical B are given, basic customs duty is given, and the railway freight is given. The total cost is 2,28,240. Now it is given that a shortage of 500 kgs in chemical A and 320 kgs in chemical B is noticed due to normal breakage. So this is a normal loss. You are required to compute the rate per kg of each chemical, assuming a provision of 2% for further deterioration. Now we have seen in our last video that all normal losses are absorbed by the good quantity. That is, they are not separately charged to the costing and PL account. They are the cost of the normal loss is apportioned between the good material. So first we are going to do a working for calculation of effective quantity of each chemical. The total cost will not be absorbed by the total quantity purchased. It will actually be absorbed by the total quantity that will be used in the final production. The quantities that have been lost due to normal reasons are reduced from the total quantity to arrive at the effective quantity. This effective quantity will absorb the cost for the entire consignment. So, chemical A and chemical B in kgs it is given that the quantity purchased is 10,000 for chemical A and 8,000 for chemical B. Now we'll subtract the shortage due to normal breakage for chemical A. It is given in the question as 500. For chemical B, it is given in the question as 320. So we have the net quantity of chemical A 9500 and chemical B 7680. Now it is given in the question that we have to make a provision for deterioration. Assuming this to be normal loss, we will also consider it in calculating the effective quantity. So for further 2%, we have 9500 into 2%, which is 190 kg. Now since it is given for further deterioration, that is why we are calculating the 2% on 9500 and not on the quantity purchased of 10,000. Had the wordings been that make a provision for deterioration on the original quantity purchased, then we would have calculated this 2% on 10,000 rupees. So for chemical B, it will be 7,680 into 2%, giving us 153.6. So the effective quantity is 9500 minus 190, 9310 for chemical A, and 7680 minus 153.6, which is 7526.4 for quantity for chemical B. Now this calculation of effective quantity is an important working, so it should be shown clearly if this question comes in the examination. Now we'll calculate the rate per kg, which is the main question. Now every working and every solution should have an heading. Like for this, the heading was calculation of effective quantity of each chemical. So the main question, we are going to calculate the rate per kg of each chemical. So a statement showing the computation of rate per kg of each chemical. The headings are very important. You can change the wordings, but every table or every solution should have a heading. That is, the examiner should know that the solution that you are doing, what is it actually resulting in? What will be the end result of the entire working? So, we have chemical A. This is in rupees. Chemical B in rupees. The unit is also required to be mentioned. The previous working was in the form of kgs, whereas this is in the form of rupees. So first we have the purchase price. The purchase price is given in the question itself, which is 1 lakh for chemical A and 1,04,000 for chemical B. Next, we have a basic customs duty. We have seen in our last video that since this is a direct expense, we are going to include it in the purchase price. So basic customs duty at the rate of 10% is 10,000 for chemical A and 10,400 for chemical B. Now next is given railway freight. So now since this is freight inwards, that is the cost incurred to bring the raw material to the buyer's location, this is a direct cost directly related to the process of procurement. So we are going to include it in the cost of purchases. So add railway freight. Now the railway freight, a total figure is given 3,840. So we'll have to apportion it between the two chemicals. The most logical is to divide it on the basis of the actual quantity procured of both the chemicals. So we are going to apportion it on the basis of kgs. So the ratio of quantity purchased will be taken, which is 10,000 is to 8,000, that is 5 is to 4. So we'll divide the total quantity, total freight 3840 into 5 divided by 9, giving us 2,133 for chemical A and 3,840 into 4 divided by 9, giving us 1,707 for product B. For chemical B. Now we have considered all the costs. So the total cost for chemical A is 1 lakh plus 10,000 plus 2,133, giving us 1,12,133, and for product B it is 1,16,107 rupees. Now we have calculated the effective quantity in our first working. Now wherever you have calculated the figure in a working, it is important to mention the reference of the working note number in the main solution so that the examiner know that this figure has been arrived at based on the workings done afterwards. So the effective quantity was 9,310 kgs of chemical A and 7,526.40 kgs for chemical B. So the rate per kg will be the total cost divided by effective quantity, giving us 12.04 for chemical A and 15.43 for chemical B. So just to revise the solution, first we calculated the effective quantity. The effective quantity was arrived at by reducing the loss due to normal reasons such as breakage. Then we calculated the total cost. We added the basic duty, included the basic customs duty and railway freight because they are directly attributable to the procurement process. The railway freight, since the total amount was given, we absorbed it, allocated it to the two chemicals on the basis of the quantity purchased. Then the total cost was divided by the effective quantity to arrive at the rate per kg. Now let us look at the next question. So now let us begin with our second question. It is given that at what price per unit would part number A32 be entered in the store's ledger if the following invoice was received. So in the invoice we see that the cost was 1000 rupees. We got a 20% discount of 200. Now since this is shown, this amount has been reduced from the purchase price itself and then GST has been charged. So it is actually a trade discount. And plus there was packaging charges of 50 rupees. A 2% cash discount will be given if payment is made in 30 days. Document substantiating payment of IGST is enclosed for claiming inputs. So in this we have adjustments of trade discount, GST, non-returnable packaging charges, cash discount. So let us look at the treatment of all these four components. So computation of cost per unit. Now since the trade discount has been reduced from the purchase price and is shown in the invoice, we are going to reduce it from our purchase price. So the net purchase price is 800 rupees. Then we have the GST component. Now it is given in a second point that the document substantiating payment of IGST is enclosed for claiming input credit. Since we can claim input of this GST, that is 96 rupees, can be adjusted with our output liability, so it is an asset and not an expense. Therefore, we are not going to add it to the cost. The next is the packaging charges. Now these are non-returnable boxes. We had seen in our last video that if it is a returnable container, then we do not include it in the purchase price because we get a refund of that amount. In this case, since it is non-returnable and it is directly attributable to the purchase process, so we are going to include it in our purchase cost. Therefore, add packaging charges of 50 rupees, we get 850. Next, we have a 2% cash discount will be given if payment is made in 30 days. Now, we had discussed it in our last video that cash discount is not directly attributable to the purchase. It is a form of finance charges. It is extended by the supplier so that he can get the cash immediately. It is not exactly related to the purchase process. Therefore, it is not adjusted from the purchase price. It is shown separately in the PL account. So, the number of units purchased is 200 units. So, the cost per unit is 850 by 200, giving us 4.25. Now we have reached our answer as 4.25, but we cannot end it over here. We had not adjusted the cash discount and GST in our solution, so we will have to give separate notes for those. Remember in the exam that the treatment of every item has to be there in the question. If it is adjusted in your main solution, well and good. If it is not, due to any reason, then you have to give the reasons for not adjusting it as part of the main solution, because even that will carry marks. So do not forget to write notes for that. So, note the first one is for cash discounts. The cash discount is treated as finance and interest and finance charges, hence, it is not considered for valuation of material. So, cash discount is treated as interest and finance charges, hence, it is not considered for valuation of material. Next is the adjustment for GST. So now since input credit is available for GST paid, hence it is not added to the purchase cost. So input credit is available for IGST paid, hence it will not be added to purchase cost. With this, we have finished with this solution. If you have any doubts, you can post them in the comment section below. If you like the video, do share and subscribe. Thank you.